Hey guys, Amanda here. Today I wanted to do a little color along with Sweet Poison Fae. As usual, I'll be using Copic alcohol markers and Faber-Castell polychromos colored pencils. Any alcohol marker or colored pencil will work. You just need to match the colors up. So like I'm starting with dark gray, which is N9 in Copics. And I'm just going to go in and flick some hair in the darker spots, like under that little oh gosh, can't think of the word, little comb over type thing she's got going on top. Now we're going to take N7, which is our second to darkest gray, and blend that out a little, bring that black down some. Now we're going to take V09 and sort of in the middle of the hair between her eyes and chin area, you want to come in and feather some purple strokes in. And this is how we're going to give her a really cool gradient hair color. Next, we're going to use a mid-level purple. For me, that's V15 in Copics. And we're just going to blend out the top of that dark purple we laid down. Next, I'm using G19, which is the darkest of my greens. And I'm just going to go in and flick a little bit of color at the bottom of her hair or on her hair tips. Next, we'll use YG13, which is something of a lighter mid-range color. And we're just going to pull that through, clear up into the purple. The next thing we're going to do is pull out our dark purple again. That's V09 if you're using Copics. And we're going to start working on her shirt. We'll start just by adding the darkest shadows around her belly, under her arm, across her chest. Next, we'll pull out our mid-level purple, which is V15 if you're using Copics. We're going to add more shadow. And finally, we'll fill it all in with our lightest purple, which I am using V12 Copic marker. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is pull out that dark gray, that N9. And we're going to start filling in half the stripes in her striped stockings. And what we're going to do is just fill in the edges a little bit and make sure we leave some white. So there's sort of a sheen on the stockings. And make sure you do both legs. I sometimes forget. And then the next thing we'll do is pull out N5. Now this is on the higher end of our lighter grays, but it's the bottom end of our darker grays. N9, N7, N5, and then N5, N3, and 0 are what we will be using today to create darker gray, blacks, or lighter gray, whites. So I went in with the N3 and just filled in some of that center, and then I followed with N0 and completed the rest of the black stripe. Now we're taking the darkest gray again, N9, and we're just going to follow the lines of the folds in her skirt and add the N9 anywhere where we might have some shadows, like under her legs there in the skirt. And you should be able to just, I print these out at 30% opacity. So if you want to follow along with the light lines, that's probably how you're best to do it. Now we're taking the N7 and we're going to fill in some of these leftover areas. Make sure that you are leaving some white for the lightest of our dark grays, which will be the N5 most likely. Yes, N5. And now we'll fill in all of the white areas or light colored areas left on the skirt so we have a true black skirt. Now we're going to pull out YG13, which is sort of the a lighter yellow-green, light to mid. And we just kind of went over her hair into from the dark green to the purple. Then we're going to pull out N9 and do a little bit under her feet on the cork. Then we'll take E29 and do some more. E27. and E25, but don't take the E25 all the way down to the bottom because we want to make some of this toxic poison come up out of the bottle into the cork, like the cork is just absorbing it. And we used our YG13 or lower bright yellow green for that. And I'm probably over here looking for something at the moment, but let's pull out N7 and we're going to add some more shadows under her feet and skirt where she's sitting on the cork. Now we're going to take G19, our darkest green, and we're going to start working on those leftover stripes. You can certainly omit this if you want to do white stripes, but you'll basically do the same, but you'll use N3 and N0 for the stripe. But we're going to use G19 and YG13, so that way we can have a lovely black and green pantyhose. Now we're going to take G05, which is between the dark green and the bright yellow green, sort of the absolute mid-range green. Now we're going to take N9, start creating shadows in the bottle. And I'm making sure to leave white along the rim of this bottle so we can get some reflective lighting later. And I'm also going around the bubbles so that way we can color them in individually. And now with N7 we're pulling more shadow into the bottle, making sure we go around those bubbles. And I'm leaving a white rim at the bottom of the bottle as well as where the cork goes in. Now we're going to take N5 and blend this out a little more. Alright, now we're going to take G19 or our darkest green and we're going to start pulling that color in from the side of the bottle. Make sure you're going around the bubbles, and you don't want to be too neat about this because this is toxic stuff. It's like, you know, you expect to see some texture in this bottle other than even more than just bubbles. So now we're taking G05 and we're going to bring more of that green towards the center. Oh yeah, that's looking really good, huh? Get those bubbles traced so you don't lose them. And you might lose some as you're coloring, but it's okay as long as you got a couple in there. Now we're going to take YG13, which is our second to lightest green. Remember, we have 4 greens. We have a super bright green coming up next, and that's more of a pale yellow green. We're just pulling more of this green in, and I'm making sure I take this YG13, this bright yellow green, and just going over all the green and dark areas of the bottle, because this is the general feeling. I want the warm green for this. And I'm also pulling this over the rim of the bottle, but not where the label is. And then I didn't put it on the video, but we just did YG21, your brightest, palest yellow green for the center of the bottle, that lightest part. Now we're going to take N5 and do the rim lighting on the label. And now we're taking N9 and filling the label in some more. Start giving this label some personality. We're just taking that N9 to any areas that are kind of on the underside. Given this, well, I guess we did around the whole perimeter, but don't use that N9 on the teeth, it'll look crazy. Now we're going to take N7 and start filling in more of this label. I'm going to leave a bright spot under the skull just to give the label a little bit of shine, and for that we'll use N5. Just fill that in, fix up any of your holes. Alright, now we're going to use N5 to trace around the skull and crossbones. And we'll start going in and filling in these toxic bubble faces. Our little skelly bubbles. Oh my goodness, they're so cute. And we're using the dark just to give some dimension to the bubbles. I don't think it matters where light's coming from or whatever, but if you want to, you certainly follow that logic. And we're using YG13, our light bright yellow green, but not our pale yellow green. And we're just going to come in and blend that dark gray out and add a little shading to the skelly bubble faces. Now we're going to take that very pale bright yellow green, YG21 if you're using Copics, and fill in all these bubbles. Alright, now we're going to pull out N7. We're going to start adding some black trim to her beautiful wings. And we're going to pull that in a little bit. Now we're taking N5 and pulling that down a little further into the wing. She's got a nice choppy black edging on her wings. So now we're going to take medium yellow, our YG13, or our light bright yellow, and we're going to pull it in through the N5 we just used and start adding it throughout the wing, but leave some white areas to create highlights with the YG21, which is what we're doing now. Alright. Now we are using YG13, our light bright yellow, to add a color to our iris. And now we'll start on the skin. And I'm going to use a dark purplish peach called E04 if you're using Copics. And I'm just going to go and get all the darkest areas on her face, on her skin. I actually miss her feet and do them later, but you might want to do the feet right now. Make sure you use the tippy tip of your marker just to get those fingers separated. Next we're going to use R02 for blush and lips. And I like to put the blush all through the skin, like on her shoulders, on her knees, maybe on her fingertips. So that way it brings the skin to life a little more, I think. And now we're going to use E13, which is sort of our light medium flesh tone, beige or a dark peach. Now we'll take E11 and we're going to blend out those shadows we just created with the E13. And E11 would be your next to lightest flesh tone or peach. Now we'll use the lightest peach, which is E000 if you're using Copics, and we just sort of blend all that work we did with the skin. So here's where I go in and fix the toes that I forgot to do in the first place. I just took E04 and I outlined the toes. Then I took E13 and I added some shadows. And finally I'm going to go in with E11, add a little more, and then blend it all together with E000. So we're just working from dark to lightest when we're doing the skin. Now I'm taking N3 and adding toenail and fingernail polish. And N7 to give her irises some pupils. And then throw some eyelashes and eyebrows up. You can always wait and do that later with pencils if you're not comfortable that you won't mess her face up. I sometimes do because I have sausage fingers. But anyway, so now we're using N3 to add some shadows to the skull and crossbones on the label. And looking cute. And we're going to use N0 to just sort of blend that out a bit and pull it all together. Now we're going to get started with pencils, and it doesn't matter what brand pencil you're using as long as it lays color down. I know some pencils aren't very good at that but most most pencils you buy will lay color down. That's all you need. We're not doing a lot of build up or anything. I use colored pencils just to get our details in, and that's what I'm doing now with the Faber-Castell 199 black pencil. It's just a black pencil. I went over the darkest parts of her hair, her skirt, her wings. I'm just basically making sure everything is as dark as I can get it where I want it, and that the details are refined. And if there's any area that you don't feel is dark enough, you can always lightly go over it with your pencil to sort of darken it up a little bit. And I'm just going in and refining the little skelly bubble faces. And now I'm probably sharpening pencils, which is the most important thing you need to do. Yep, I sharpened it. You want to make sure that you keep your pencils sharp while you're doing detail work. Otherwise, you might as well just use your markers, because you're not going to have a fine enough point. So I'm making sure I go over the outline of the label, and I'm going to fill in those skull and crossbone eyes and go around the perimeter at some point. Right now I'm taking out the lightest green pencil, and I'm just tracing the outline of the bottle, some of our skelly bubbles, and then I'm going to take it and fill in some of the veins on the wings, although I don't do it just yet. Now we're going to take FC 199 and really go in and make sure we've got that skull and crossbones really sticking out from the label. We want it to look kind of 3D. Now we're going to take a dark brown, which is FC 177 if you're using Polychromos 177, and we're just going to do the edge of the cork. And now I'm using a dark purple pencil to go through the purple areas in her hair and her top, and I'm mostly just going over the details that are already there from the digi. So now we're going to use dark green pencil. For me, that's Polychromos 264, and we're going to outline the wing, we're going to outline her hair, just the darker, add a little shadow between the bottle and the cork. There we go. Now we're going to use a beige or a dark goldenrod. For me, it's Polychromos 187, and I'm using it to outline her skin. And you gotta make sure you sharpen them pencils. That's when I'm going off screen, I'm sharpening a pencil. We're going to use it to fill in her face, give her little nostrils, some bottom eyelids, and go around all of her skin. We're going to darken up the area between her lips. Now I'm taking the lightest green and just added a little highlight to her eyes. And now with your white gel pen, I like the Sakura Jelly Roll. As long as it goes over colors, it'll work. So we take the white gel pen and we start adding more dramatic highlights to the bottle, to her eyes, to the bubbles. Just give everything a little extra pop. And she's pretty much done. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please like. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments below. And of course, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thank you so much, y'all. I hope to get more videos out soon. Take care.